Everybody, this is John. Welcome to the NCGA-FMC Ag Weather Outlook, June 6, 2015. Just last night I went outside and sort of felt that dew point getting up there and that humidity working its way in, and it felt like summer to me. And we're right at that time now that we're starting to transition. The moisture staying in a little bit later throughout the day, and it's settling in, and I sort of like that feel for a while, although by the end of summer, who knows. But anyway, hope your season is going good so far, your spring. Um, Looks like most of the corn has now been planted. There's some lagging areas, Texas due to all the rain. Colorado's a bit lower. Everywhere else is pretty close. Look at Illinois, 100%. Missouri's also lagging a bit. The western part of the state has seen a lot of rain days. I'll be showing that here in just a moment. But the eastern corn belt's in good shape. The upper Midwest also in pretty good shape. Now look at the number of rain days. Look at that area of darker green in Missouri, and that's that area I was saying has had a lot of rain days. That's over 16 to 20 at least out of the last 30. There's been some rain, and that shows you where that area lagging. Matter of fact, you can sort of trace it right here, the number of rain days, and this is the area where it's been difficult to get into the field, and that's where we're seeing some areas lagging. Now, the areas that have seen near 100%. Look at this, less number of days in this region right here. So that sort of explains the delays. Now, if we look at the last 7 days here, a lot quieter actually. We see a lot of brown. Welcome over Oklahoma and Texas. Been very wet, and there have been 0 rain days. I mentioned that last week. That looked like a couple weeks of drier weather. Eastern Corn Belt, Upper Midwest, Great Lakes, not many rain days, if any at all. And the area that did receive 4 days or more has been pretty localized there, right around St. Joe, Missouri, north of Kansas City, up towards Omaha, and then sort of parts of central Missouri, and then parts of the upper Midwest as well. But overall, it was a pretty good week to get out in the field and get some work done over most of the Corn Belt. Now, if we look at where the rain fell, the more significant rain was in that very narrow band there. Look at that, 5 inches or more, those areas in red from southeast part of Nebraska, northeast Kansas, parts of western Missouri. Then there was some welcome rainfall over the eastern Corn Belt, and that's that area I'm really focusing on as needing some additional rainfall. And I'll be talking about that as sort of a theme in today's briefing. But you look at that area there, that's in yellow. Over the eastern Corn Belt. Now, the past 7 days, one of the signs that I look for summer is a splotchy type map here for the percent of normal rainfall, and that's what we're seeing. We're seeing parts of Iowa with that deep red, 10%, 20% of normal for the week. But then if we get into northern Indiana, we see above normal precipitation. And that's what we're going to be seeing more and more as we get into summer. A very hard pattern to describe as far as percent of normal precipitation. So if we look at the last 7 days, winners and losers as far as rainfall, really the main surplus is in that very narrow band, and that's a localized area there, north of Kansas City up towards Omaha, and that's 3 inches or more above normal, what would normally occur in the week. Actually, I see a couple little dots of purple. That's 4 inches or more. Iowa, more of a significant drying, 2 inches below normal in spots in that region. And then over the eastern Corn Belt, actually up to 1 inch of surplus. And that's good news because it's sort of been dry in that region, and we really need a little bit more rain. Oklahoma, Texas, thank goodness, most areas, 1 inch or 2 deficit for the week. Okay, so if we look at soil moisture here, what we see is the areas in green and blue are areas that are trending wet. Now, I'm not so concerned about the light green. Actually, if everything was covered in light green, a little bit wetter than normal, that is what I'm looking for prior to summer. I want a little bit of insurance against those dry, hot spells. But areas in blue are the areas that we really have some problems. So if we look at most of the Corn Belt, look at that. Most is shaded white, the primary Corn Belt. Upper Midwest, a little bit green, some splotches of yellow here. Overall, we're in a pretty stable type soil moisture pattern. Fairly close to normal. A little bit wet, a little bit dry here and there, but no real strong pronounced anomalies one way or the other. Strongest anomalies are either the regional anomaly from Oklahoma and Texas or a very local anomaly in the northwest part of Missouri of those wet anomalies, as far as also the very far western Corn Belt as well. If you want to see how it has changed over the last couple weeks, you can see the changes here. Blue is where soils are getting wetter, and brown is where it's getting drier. It's sort of splotchy here and there. For the most part, eastern Corn Belt is actually, due to the recent rainfall, a little bit wetter, which is good. Everywhere else is sort of splotchy, saying sort of a status quo. Now, temperatures last week, due to some additional precipitation, were held down. We see some green and blue over the central part of the nation, and that is below normal temperature. So most of the region was below normal, but that's going to be changing. We're going to be bumping up the temperatures a bit as we go further ahead. Now, I mentioned a little bit over the last couple months about this transition, getting away from that southwest flow into more of a lazy type summer pattern. It's going to take a while to work into it, but I do think we are working into that. And what you're going to see on these jet stream maps, the next couple ones I show, are a lot of unshaded area. And what that means is a normal jet stream, not unusually far north, not unusually far south, and normal type patterns for the most part. So I always look at the upper jet stream because that sort of influences our overall big type patterns. And I'll be looking at that right through the growing season because I want to identify any big changes and let you know, be the very first ones to know. So this week, a little bit of a bulge north, and that's that brown, but overall pretty much near normal. And then if we look at the middle part of June 16th through 25th, first look at this, hardly any shading at all. Very, very close to normal type pattern. We're going to have a west to east jet stream, a little bit ridging here or bumping north over the middle part of the nation, which is going to support warm temperatures. Pretty much typical for mid-June. We're going to notice it warming up because it's been cool in many spots. It's going to seem warmer than normal, but really we're just getting to very normal weather. So if you want to get that corn really popping there due to some warm weather, I think we're going to get it. Not excessively warm or hot, just where we'd expect to be for mid-June. Now this week is going to be a little bit warmer than normal, so we do see over the entire primary corn belt this shading of brown, and that's indicating above normal temperatures, especially over the upper Midwest. So this week will be anywhere from 2 to maybe 6 degrees or so above normal. But then as we get towards the middle part of the June, look at this. This goes along with that jet stream pattern. I know meteorologists a lot of times want to always say it's got to be unusually hot or cold, wet or dry, something spectacular, but really this is pretty much near normal what we'd see in June. Now that doesn't mean everybody's going to get normal weather. It just means that it's probably going to be in a range either a little bit wetter than normal, a little bit drier than normal, a little bit warmer than normal, a little bit cooler than normal, but a little bit, and that looks like the forecast. Okay, so let's look at the precipitation forecast for the next 7 days. This pattern of localized heavy rain looks like it'll continue for another week. You can see a bullseye of heavy rain right in the northwest part of Iowa and surrounding states up into parts of Minnesota. But everywhere else, a very quiet, scattered type pattern. Nothing all that unusual. I think it's going to probably see some patches of red in that departure or percent of normal next week over large parts of the area. Just sort of scattered precipitation. Again, the exception is going to be in the region right in here, upper Midwest, upper Corn Belt. And it's really hard to say if this will be right in this spot or right here, right here. When you see these very bullseyes of heavy rain, there's more uncertainty on where that might occur. Okay, so let's look ahead over the next 4 weeks. Remember, the first 2 weeks are from one type of model. The last 2 weeks are from a climate model, so the reliability is going to be somewhat compromised. But this is week 1. You can see the enhanced precipitation above normal, upper Midwest, everywhere else fairly close to normal. Week 2, pretty much a normal pattern. Now, I do see this tendency for the upper Midwest, North and South Dakota, Minnesota, Kansas, and Nebraska, perhaps western Iowa. This area here, I do see a tendency of above normal precipitation, and I do see a tendency of a bit below normal precipitation over the eastern Corn Belt. Again, I want to say a bit below normal. I don't see it being strong one way or the other, but if I had to sort of divided out. That's how I would see it. Let's keep it on the Gulf as well. If you're in this area, I see a number of disturbed type weather in this that could bring some heavy rain into the Gulf region, and I'll be following that very close throughout the week. Week 3, this is why I'm mentioning that tendency in the western Corn Belt. So the Dakotas, Kansas, Nebraska, parts of Iowa, Minnesota. If you're in this region here, we could be getting in a little bit wetter than normal pattern right through the end of June. Eastern Corn Belt, a little bit tendency towards drier than normal. Even week 4, we see that. So that's why I'm saying I'm looking at that as sort of a longer term type pattern. Here are your current soil temperatures, well into the 60s now over most of the region. And let's take a look at how they're going to occur this week. Here we go, and we see even warmer temperatures with warmer soil temperatures in response to the warm air temperatures. And we see that area in red nearing 70 degrees, pushing further north. So here are your takeaway points from the briefing. Upper Midwest rainfall. Hard to say exactly where the heaviest amount will be. Everywhere else, scattered precipitation. Looks like temperatures will be warmer this week, also warming soils. Rainfall should be adequate the rest of the month, but it looks like the trend is going to be wetter in the upper Midwest, a bit drier in the east. And overall, I don't see any extreme temperature anomalies either on the cool side or the hot side well into June. So that's this week's weather briefing. Hope you have a great week and get a lot of things done outside, and hope the weather cooperates for all your operations. Take care. I'll be talking with you again next weekend.